the Bible. Psalm 133 says, "How good and pleasant it is when sons and daughters, when brothers and sisters dwell in unity." Or in another translation it says this, "How good and pleasant is it when brothers and sisters dwell in harmony." If you read the Bible, it's impossible to not see that God's heart, God's plan is for us to be united. And if you speak to different people, people have different ideas around what this might look like. Some people think of it as being a place where we all look the same, we all sound the same, we all act the same, we all are the same. But that's not really unity, that's uniformity. Other people push against that and they're like, you know what, we just need to get everybody together. It's a place where everybody can be in the same room and it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you believe, everyone's together, and yet that's not unity either. That's universality. Unity is when you bring together diverse people, diverse cultures, diverse ages, diverse backgrounds, and yet we are brought together by something beyond ourselves. And for us, for Christians, what unites us is Jesus. He is the uniting principle of the church. And you can see this picture all the way through the Bible. You can see it with the 12 disciples. You've got a tax collector and a zealot. You've got rich ones and poor ones, and they're all united because they all follow Jesus. You see this in the early church. It just explodes into life. Jews, Gentiles, Greeks, men and women all coming together, passionate, excited, changing the world, united together. You see this if you read the book of Revelation, John's vision about what eternity will look like. And he says every tribe, every tongue, coming together, worshipping God. We're meant to be united. And yet, if we're honest, it is not quite as easy as that, is it? It doesn't just happen, it's quite tricky. And I think this is why Paul says in Ephesians, make every effort to keep yourselves united. He says in 1 Corinthians 12, let there be no division in the body, but that in parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honoured, every part rejoices with it. Let there be no division in the church. And I think that Paul says this because he knows how easy and how natural it is for us to build walls in between us. Since the start of mankind, we have been brilliant at building walls. We've got the Great Wall of China, which was to protect China against the nomadic invaders. We've got the Hadrian's Wall, that's what it's called, designed because we didn't want the Scottish to be allowed into our country. That didn't work out well, did it though? We've got walls that are designed to protect us. We've got walls that are designed to make sure that everybody knows what is ours. I think that in the beginning, men first invented fire. They then invented back gardens and then barbecues. And they invited all their mates around. But what did they do? They built a wall around it to show people, this is mine. This is my garden, it's not your garden. And so we create these walls to show people who owns what. I didn't practice this. I really hope this is going to work. Come on, Josiah, can you come here? It's because I've got a hand with the mic. Right, this is going on now. Seamless. Love it. We've got more of these. And so throughout history we've become brilliant at building walls. And we don't just build physical external walls, we build psychological internal walls as well. We build walls of insecurity, where we come into a room and we have this barrier in between us and everybody else, and we're worried about what they're thinking at any point. Have you ever gone to somebody and you've just felt straight away before you even got close, there was just a barrier in between you? This wall of insecurity that they put up around them. We build walls of fear. We build walls of pain, where we've been hurt and we don't want to be hurt again, and so we don't put ourselves out there in the way that we would want to. We keep a little bit of distance because of the pain. Every month at my office we have on a Friday something called Pizza and Prosecco Fridays, which sounds really wonderful if you like pizza and Prosecco, and it's free. It's all free. They provide pizza, Prosecco, and they invite everyone from all the different offices to come and hang out together. And so on Friday I went there ready for my Domino's, and the first disappointment was that all the Texas barbecue chicken had gone, which is the best Domino's flavour, so I was already in a bad mood. But as I got there, I got my pizza and I turned around and I could see everyone on tables with their own offices. And I realised that I was in an office by my side and no one was going to talk to me. And so I did what most of us would do. I stood there and tried to look confident and attractive. Like, hi, I'm friendly, come and talk to me. And I was like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and it's painful. And I waited, and I waited. And I didn't feel like I could just sit down at a table because they might be talking about something important, and so I waited for maybe 6 or 7 entire seconds before I quit and said out loud to everybody who could hear me, oh, I've got more work to be done, sorry I can't stay with you. And I decided that I would stick with my pride rather than put myself out there and risk the pain. Walls cause us to hide away, to be diminished. And every wall has a purpose. We build them to protect what's ours. We build them to make sure that we can be comfortable and confident. But we also find that every wall brings division. Every wall brings isolation. The true fruit of the walls that we have in our society is loneliness. And there are so many people who can be seen, who are out in public, and yet they are alone behind the wall. Have you ever found yourself misjudging a situation because of the lens that you were looking through? You know, these walls, they don't just divide us, they frame how we see the world. A little while ago, the first time I ever preached at church, I was so nervous and I was so insecure. And I worked so hard to prepare this, what I thought was an amazing sermon. And as I'm preaching, I'm looking out, trying to make eye contact, because that's what I was told to do. And I saw this woman on the 3rd row, and her face was like this. And I was like, oh no, what did I say? I didn't realise this was so controversial. I was just trying to be nice. And as I'm talking, I keep looking back there, and she's just staring at me. Like every word was kind of hitting her gag reflex. Like I was so sad and so frustrated. And then I was like, how dare she? I'm trying my best here. I'm doing my best. And at the end, people start coming over and they start saying nice things and being really polite. And then I see this woman and I was just like, and she comes over to me, and as she comes over, she's like, nice to meet you. And I was like, oh no, that's your face. You just look like that all the time. And you know what? And I realised that that I was offended by her because I thought she was offended by me. That because I was reading something into her, I was then looking at the world through the lens of my insecurity. You can look at the world through the lens of your pain, where everything that you see, it feels dangerous, it feels painful, you've been hurt, and now you can't see things the same way. You might look at the world through your past, that you've messed up, that you're a failure. And now you look at community, but you're always looking at it through this kind of a lens, or maybe you look at it through the lens of your problems. Like you've got issues. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but the Bible tells us that in this life you will have trouble. The only place where you will stop having trouble is when you die and go to heaven. There will always be problems everywhere that you go. And when you look at life through the frame of your wall, you'll approach things in the wrong way. You'll misread people's intentions. You will find yourself hurt. I don't want to look at life through the lens of my problems. I don't want to look at life through the lens of my past. I don't want to look at life through the lens of my pain. I want to look at it through the lens of the solution. Because we have Jesus. And Jesus is the breaker of walls. He is our victory. I know that you have problems, but when you have a greater revelation of God, you will stop praying to God and telling Him about your problems, and you will start telling your problems about the size of your God. We have a God who can move mountains. We have a God who can raise the dead. We have a God, and for Him there is nothing that is impossible. So I don't want to look at life through this lens. I need to break down this wall. And you see, behind every single wall, there is somebody who deep down desperately wants connection. Deep down desperately, they want friendship. Deep down desperately, they need other people. You know, it is impossible to build a meaningful friendship when you're stuck behind the wall. It's absolutely impossible. I heard a story, I don't know if it's true, but it was about a man who had a castle and the walls of his castle had crumbled and fallen down. And so he brought in a bricklayer and he said, "Could you rebuild the walls of my castle?" And the guy's building these walls and he's stacking them up one at a time, getting taller and taller, and eventually he runs out of the stones. So he goes back to the man who owns the castle and he's like, "Sorry, I can't do any more. I've got to stop." And the man's like, "You cannot stop. We need these walls. You must finish. Wherever you can find any rocks, wherever you can find any stones, build the wall." And so he goes back and he builds the wall, and months come past. And eventually the owner of the castle comes and he says, "Amazing, that wall looks better than this job that we did, Josiah. This wall looks incredible, you did it, thank you so much." And he goes behind his wall and he finds out that the castle is no more. And that the stone layer has taken the bricks from the castle to build the wall. It's a ridiculous story, but it's so true to what we do in life. We spend time and energy and effort building things designed to protect us, and we lose the very thing that we wanted to protect. We lose community, we lose love, we lose authenticity, we lose vulnerability, we lose connection. We come together longing for friendships, and yet we build walls, and it is impossible to build a friend behind a wall. And I need you to know that Jesus is no respecter of our walls. Jesus spent his entire ministry breaking down walls. Right at the start, he goes to Samaria. Samaria is like this other culture. The Jews hated Samaritans. They were the worst, so Jesus straight away just walks straight at that wall and he says, "This wall will not stop me." Straight into Samaria. He then walks straight to this woman. And again, in that culture, men did not speak to women in this way. And he says, this wall between men and women, I'm going to walk straight past that one as well. He starts speaking to this woman at the well. And he finds out that she's not just a Samaritan. She's not just a woman. She's a sinful woman who has to go to this well at a time when no one else can be there because of her shame, because of her past, because of her pain. She cannot be connected to other people. And Jesus should have known that, and he should have known that she's not the type of person that our holy man would talk to. But he says, I'm going to walk past that wall as well. I'm going to speak to her. I'm going to speak to her as a friend. I'm going to speak to her as an equal. The Son of God from heaven, holiness incarnate, speaks to her as an equal friend. She becomes the first evangelist in the whole gospel. The first person who sees Jesus for who he truly was. He's the Saviour of the world. Jesus does this time and time again. He's walking and in the tree there's a tax collector. The tax collector is separate from the rest of the community because he's a thief, because he's betrayed them. And Jesus says, I'm coming around your house. That wall that you have around you, I'm going to break that one down as well. The disciples, people who were rejected, people who hadn't made it. He said, I'm going to build my church with you. I'm going to smash down that wall too. Jesus is no respecter of our walls. You can end up lost behind a wall. You can end up stuck. You can end up lonely. But this is what it says in Ephesians 2. It says that the Messiah, Jesus, has made things up between us so that now we're together, both non-Jewish and Jews. He tore down the walls that used to keep us distant. You see what Jesus did? He tore the wall between us and God so that we could be united with our Father. And he tears down the wall between us and each other. We need to dismantle our walls. And the first way that we need to do this is we need to stop being apathetical about walls. We need to stop being neutral about division. Jesus isn't neutral about division. Jesus isn't tolerant of walls. Jesus breaks them down. The only way to break down a wall of prejudice is by being anti-prejudice. The only way to smash through the glass walls that we have around us is by saying, I will not tolerate them. Anytime I see something which is going to stop somebody from coming and getting involved, I need to find that and I need to take that down and say, that's not going to be our story here. And maybe you're like, I don't even think that we have this stuff. I promise you we do. I chatted to a friend a little while ago. He's a leader down in London of a church. And we were talking about racism. And he was saying that racism is a real problem here in our culture. And I was like, look, I don't see it. And he said, well, maybe not. He said, sometimes racism is really active. He said, but a lot of the time, it's accidental. He said, when I became a church leader, I found that I didn't get opportunities in the church. I wasn't invited around people's houses. I wasn't invited to lead prayer. No one wanted me to preach. He said, then I realised that if I started to act more white, I got more opportunities. He said, nobody was saying it. Nobody would say they didn't love me, but there was this wall. And the only way I could get past this wall was to become more uniform. And I was like, how awful is that? And I realised that's what happens. We don't mean to. We perpetuate things because that's just what we like, that's just what we know, that's just what's comfortable. And because I feel like I want it to be my way and I know that I like things this way, I have my wall, and if you're not going to come behind my wall, you can stay outside and you can miss the opportunity. We have to break down these walls. We have to work out how. And I'm not saying that I've got all the answers either. But what we have to say is that every time we see a brick, we pull it down. We might not fix everything straight away, but every time we see somebody and we say, do you know what, you don't have an opportunity, we need to remove that. I think that there's so much of this for women as well. Talking with Emma, as a man, it's easy for me to find a leader who will invest in me, who will mentor me. But as a woman, it's not the same, because so many male leaders will say, I don't want to spend the time with you because I shouldn't be alone with a woman. Which I understand. I understand the wisdom of that. But unless we can then find another way, we create a glass wall, preventing women from leadership, preventing women from opportunity. We have to say, that is not going to be okay. We are not going to have a culture which has walls. And so sometimes these walls are going to be external, sometimes they're going to be internal. But we have to make the effort, one at a time, pulling this down, creating a community where we can truly be vulnerable, we can truly be authentic, we can truly be known, and we can truly be loved. This is the vision that Jesus has of the church. A church not uniform but diverse. You know, another word for unity is harmony in the Bible. It's impossible to have a harmony by yourself. Try it next time you sing, you'll sound weird. It doesn't work. You can be a note, but you can never be a harmony when you're alone. You can never be a harmony when you try and make everybody conform to what you want their lives to be. We need diversity. We need difference. We need to come together, and then as we create harmony, we'll sing a song that is so far greater than anything that we could by ourselves. And so where I build walls in my life, not always easy, not always natural, I want to tear them down. Where I look at spaces and I see somebody who is struggling behind a wall, I don't even want to ask permission. I'm just going to assume that you're a human, and that humans need love and connection. And so if you give me a wall, I'm going to try and find ways to create connection. If you give me an excuse, I'm going to try and find ways to give you encouragement. I'm going to try and find somebody who I can call up and invite round my house for dinner. I'm going to try and find somebody who I can pray for. I'm going to try and find somebody who I can have something in common with. I'm going to try and find somebody who doesn't look like they're connecting, who I can help to connect with somebody else, because I know that I cannot do this by myself, and that we need each other, and we need to be relentless, and we need to be persevering, because these walls, they don't happen on purpose most of the time. We just find ourselves walking through life, and they appear around us. You were not meant to exist behind a wall. Can I get the band up, please? You know, I think two of the biggest reasons why we create walls around ourselves are actually pride. We don't want to be seen as insecure. We want to be seen a certain way. We don't want to be seen as being diminished. We want to be known for certain things. We want everyone to come and say, wow, look at Ben. Like, I want to come into the room and be like, high fives, everybody, like that's what I want to be. But my pride, it prevents it. Because I want to be seen a certain way and create walls. The second way that I think we find ourselves creating walls is consumerism. Consumerism. And this is a weird one, because consumerism is like the water we swim in. It's everywhere. It's so everywhere that we don't even realize it anymore. We don't realize how consumeristic we actually are. But we live in a world where we can engage or we cannot engage on our terms. Where we can turn up or we cannot turn up based on our experience. Where we pick a church and we say, wow, I like that church, they've got a decent Welsh vocalist. I'll go there. And we choose. And for as long as the vocals are Welsh and good, we stay, and then when they become a little bit more British and less harmonic, we leave. We pick and choose. We do this with our friends as well. We try and find the friends that we really, really want, and we then build friendship on what I want out of what an uninspiring friend we are. Be my friend so that you can make me feel better about my life. Be my friend so that I can get something that I want to consume from you. It's uninspiring. You can't build trust on that. When everyone's thinking about themselves, there's no bridges, there's no foundation, there's no security. And so it's no wonder that in a consumeristic world, where everyone's thinking about themselves all the time, that we fall back and we say it just doesn't feel safe. I don't feel like I can trust you when it gets hard. Let alone in those insecure moments when I'm trying to get a coffee and no one's talking to me. I don't know that I can trust you when my brother's sick. I don't know that I can trust you when my mental health has fallen apart. I don't know that I can trust you when I feel insecure and I really need help. I just don't know that you're going to be there for me because you don't even turn up unless it suits you. I heard someone a little while ago say to me, the church is really great about caring about people, we're really bad at caring for people. I wish it wasn't true. How do we change this? We change it one book at a time, one cup of coffee at a time, one prayer at a time, one hug at a time, one day at a time, one text message at a time. These walls are built on millions and millions of bricks, and we dismantle them one at a time, relentlessly, saying Jesus is no respecter of this wall, and nor shall I. I will push through it. I will persevere. I will turn up. I will put myself out there, even though it might be painful, because I know that we need to build something better, something greater than what I would experience by myself.